I've been asked repeatedly, why bother going through all this trouble to do this? I wanted to jump from 235 horsepower to 345 horsepower and from 295 foot-pounds of torque to 375 foot-pounds of torque. There's a shopping list for this project. You're going to need engine, PCM, wire harness, AC lines, evap line, fuel line, throttle cable, radiator hoses, and motor mounts. Essentially what you're going to want to do is go to a scrapyard and spend a few hours pulling the engine bay harnesses and all of the other little components on the shopping list if you can't find them online. That should cost you somewhere in the maybe couple $100 range. Shouldn't be too bad. You can do this swap really cheap if you can find the right things. So I found my engine with 94,000 miles on it for $1,500, and I thought that was a pretty good deal. When you start taking everything off to get access to the engine, you don't need to take the bumper off. If you prefer to, or if you want to, go ahead, but I was able to leave the bumper on because the engine just goes up and over and drops in. For the wire harness, you don't need any of the dash harness because everything lines up on that connector C219 that's inside the dash. You just need what's in the engine bay. And in the engine bay, there's two harnesses that you need. There's the little one that's on top of the engine, and that goes to your fuel injectors and your spark plugs, and it has two big plugs in the back near the throttle body that plug into the main engine bay harness. That's the one that runs to the IPM, PCM, transmission. The next thing I need to discuss is the motor mounts. Best thing to do is probably just to take them from a junk truck, or maybe you can get lucky enough to find them on eBay or a part out. I went last September and pulled one of these engines just to see what all was involved and learn how to do it. And I ended up going back to that same junkyard 6 months later and taking the motor mounts from that particular truck where I'd already removed the engine. So that was really easy. All right, so that should cover the intro stuff. So when you begin the swap, the first thing that you're going to want to do before you start taking apart anything, go get your refrigerant drained out of your AC lines, because you're going to have to take off those AC lines and you don't want a big toxic mess in your face. Then you're going to take off the battery, the hood, the radiator, the fan, the air filter, the fender wells. Go ahead and take off both fender wells because I made it almost the whole swap without taking off the passenger one, and I still had to take it off. Hole just like barely big enough to get this thing out. I mean, like literally it's friction.
I was just applying to Progressive like a week or two ago.
To weld?
Nah, I'm just...
You're coming there with the freaking torch. Anyway, there's two things left I have to do to actually get the engine out. Just two. Just three. There's this power steering fuel line, and then those bolts on the back. How about that? We're getting closer though to pulling the actual engine out. I need to take and pull my pedal out of there. This is my wire that controls the throttle. Get that guy loose and free. Oh, came right out. Cool. To access the torque converter bolts, you're going to have to take off the cover plate that's on the bottom of the engine at the transmission. Once that's off, you can then spin the flywheel to access all four bolts. So you do one bolt, then you spin the flywheel to the next one, and then you do the next one. Trick is like positioning myself right. Okay, new request. Can you grab the mallet? Thank you.
Welcome.
We'll see how this works. That didn't work. I think it's working. Yep, that worked. How about that?
Most of what you're doing. I mean, I can't see the actual bolt and stuff, but... Want me to get that?
Oh, I think I got it. Yeah, what's up, deal? I don't want to get that. Like, I got this like, you know what you doing? You know what I'm trying to myself. That's different. Recording. All you have to do is get onto here And then from there you can push down and collapse this ring in order to get the rest of the screwdriver under, and from there it just comes right out. It's very easy. Wire right here, that's your pedal cable. Do the same thing. Those are 2 holes through your firewall. You go back on the inside. Canister that's got the pedal attached. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. You're gonna reach on the back side of that and you're gonna pinch it, and then it'll come out. Boom, disconnected. Clear up this guy right here. Technically that'd be fine how it is, because all I need to do is get this other piece out. But there's some connectors, there's a few white connectors. Come back in here. There it is. Pop off that fuel line and use our little disconnect tool, this guy right here. And then this evap line will also be very easy to pop off. Shouldn't be really anything in it. And that's it. The fuel line shouldn't spill anything, but it might. Perfect. You hear that click? It went right in there. This might spill everywhere. I don't know. There shouldn't be any pressure in the line. At least there wasn't at the fuel rail. Well, at least I could get out of there quick. Towels. There we go. There it is. Trying to get the engine lined up with the transmission was pretty hard. Obviously, you're going to have the cherry picker lifting up the engine, but also make sure that you have a floor jack to jack up the transmission so that you can get them kind of lined up properly so that they'll go right together. Alright, so cool. Once the motor's in, it's all just simple reassembly. You're just redoing what you already did and adding in the new wire harness, and you just want to make sure that you're plugging everything in where it's supposed to go. If I were you, I would label your ground wires. On the new harness, when you're going to put it in, before you do anything, take some painter's tape and make some big blue flags on your ground wires, because they're really easy to miss. They're not, like a regular plug where it has a mating connection. They're just kind of bolted wherever. So try to take note of that and label them. Probably label them when you're first removing them. If you want to, you can label every single connector. I didn't do that because they're almost all unique, and I just thought that would be a waste of time. But it would help to eliminate human error if you did that. What you'll see here is while I'm putting in the new wire harness, I'm actually putting dielectric grease on every connection, and I'm taking note on my phone of any bad connections or anything I might think needs to be repaired. And that's just for diagnostic information in the future. If, for example, my wiper fluid wasn't working and I was like, maybe it's because the clip broke on that connector, and I went and looked at it and boom. Cruise control with the 5.7 works solely by the PCM, and so cruise control on the 4.7 actually has this little vacuum solenoid, and that whole unit is not in the 5.7 system. So when you take it out from underneath the battery box, bye-bye, it's gone. In place of the vacuum solenoid for the cruise control system in the 4.7, for the 5.7 you have the throttle position sensor, which the throttle cable actually runs to. So it still attaches to the pedal, and then you're going to take and run it through the firewall, but then instead of running it up to the butterfly valve on the throttle body of the 4.7, you're going to run it down to this throttle position sensor box, and it hooks right into there. It kind of snaps into place, and it's that simple. There we go. Cord for this too. Here we are. So this is going to be this weird little red straight 6-pin. Didn't give me much of a click, but I heard it. That's our throttle body, throttle cable. You're going to need a new Y pipe because the Y pipe from the 4.7 will not work on the 5.7. In order to get in a new Y pipe, you're going to have to take off this bracket that goes across the frame that holds the rear transmission mount. I've taken this off before because I changed the transfer case, but it's pretty easy to do. It's just 4 giant bolts and then kind of knock it out of place, and then there's a couple in the middle for the transmission mount. Straightforward. Just make sure that your transmission is jacked up so it doesn't fall on you. So let's check out the performance test. A couple of my goals in this video were to show what I can do and provide a more comprehensive explanation of how you can do this yourself than anything else I've seen out there. Hopefully you found it helpful. Thanks for watching.